We begin, of course, with that breaking news. US President Joe Biden has announced that he will step aside from the race to the White House. In a statement posted on X, Biden said he believed it was in the best interest of his party and the country to step aside. For weeks, the president had rejected calls urging him to drop out, much of it coming from his fellow Democrats. Many expressed concern over his mental acuity and ability to beat Donald Trump following his shaky debate performance last month. Well, Biden has now said he's endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for the 2024 election. Reacting to the news, CNN is reporting that Trump says he thinks Harris will be easier to defeat than Biden in November. Well, let's cross over to Washington to speak to Fraser Jackson, our correspondent there. Fraser, after weeks of pressure, he's finally done it. He's stepping aside.
Yes, it seems like it was more of a question of when rather than if. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, there have been increasing numbers of House Democrats and even senators who've called for Joe Biden to step aside. The initial reporting that we had was that Joe Biden was somewhat entrenched, digging his heels in, and angry as well that these Democrats had broken with him and were turning their backs on him effectively. However, what really seems to have been the turning point here is that call from Nancy Pelosi, where she said that she believed he didn't have a path forward and that ultimately, if he stayed in the race, then the Democrats would lose the down-ballot tickets for the House and the Senate as well. So that seems to be one thing that has really swayed Biden. The other thing, of course, was the donors as well. The donations have started to dry up, especially in the wake of that op-ed from Hollywood actor George Clooney, a mega donor to the Democratic Party. That was one thing that was said to be causing concern for Biden as well. Ultimately, though, it really seems like Biden was isolated over the course of the last few days after that COVID-19 diagnosis. He's been at his beach house in Rehoboth, Delaware, about an hour and a half away from D.C., and that has given him some time to mull over what he should do and what his future in the race should be. After calls from Nancy Pelosi and also calls from Chuck Schumer in the Senate and Hakeem Jeffries in the House, it seems that Joe Biden has mulled these things over and decided that the best course of action was to step aside and not be the nominee for this upcoming election. So a really history-making day here in the United States. This is almost uncharted territory, so it is a very developing situation, but something that we have seen coming over the course of the last couple of weeks is that call for him to step aside got louder and louder and ultimately overshadowed everything that Joe Biden was doing, and it seemed that the situation was no longer tenable.